It's a type or a kind of country music, but in contrast to most of the country or country and western music that most Kenyans are familiar with, it has some distinguishing characteristics. Number one, almost without exception, we do not play electrical instruments. Second, nobody gets up and sings bluegrass unless they also play an instrument. We don't have like solo singers. Unless you can pick, you can't sing. That doesn't mean that all pickers are also singers.
So I'm out of this.
Sorry, Jeff. Sorry.
Well, we could make a special exception for you if you
can
learn
sing
some
a
of our
song.
songs, depending on what part you have.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the general, I mean, the instruments, as you've seen, we got the big upright acoustic double bass, it's called.
Yep.
We got the little fiddle next to that one. Guitars, we got some mandolins over there, and of course the banjo, which originally came from Africa, but maybe we'll talk a little bit about that later. The only other thing I'd say about bluegrass music, the guy who first started it, Bill Monroe, and we'll talk about him later, in 1939, basically he was putting together a couple of different traditions in local music in the south central U.S., around the Appalachian Mountains and surrounding areas, which is basically derived from British Isles music, where this guy comes from, Scottish bagpipes, Irish fiddling, and the British ballad tradition. But then over 150, 200, 250 years, baked in the U.S., in that Appalachian Mountain region, we got a lot of local songs, tunes for square dancing and other types of dancing and so on.
Yeah.
So bluegrass draws from those traditional sources as well as from African-American blues music, because the guy who started it was very much influenced as a kid by a local African-American fiddler who played Appalachian music on the fiddle with his uncle, but he played blues on the guitar. So Bill Monroe took that music of the traditional dance music, the blues from this fellow, Arnold Schultz, and also he took a lot of influence from the local Baptists and other churches, a lot of hymn singing, often with four parts, some unaccompanied, because some of those churches thought that music was, the devil's business, so they wouldn't allow instruments, especially the fiddle was seen as the devil's instrument, for reasons that Stephanie can tell us more about later. So,
Okay.
it has this sort of background.
All right, so